What if the flames that claimed Jacques de Molay did not end the Templars, but ignited something darker, more secret, more eternal? Imagine symbols carved in stone, rituals held beneath moonlight, a forgotten architecture of power that survives in whispers. What if every compass and square you see hides a scar left by a betrayal centuries old? This is the story not only of what was destroyed, but of what refused to die. What if they never died? What if the fire that consumed Jacques de Molay did not erase the Templars, but baptized them into something far darker? Paris, 1314. The dawn air is cold and damp, but the crowd is fevered. They have come to witness the fall of an empire, the death of the Grand Master of the Knights Templar. For 2 centuries, the Templars had been the sword of Christendom, warrior monks who bled across continents, guardians of the Holy Land, protectors of kings and pilgrims alike. But on this day, they stand accused of heresy, blasphemy, and crimes unspeakable. They called them idol worshippers. They called them witches. They said they spat on the cross and kissed demons in the shadows. But what if those were only lies? What if the real crime was something far more dangerous? Knowledge, power, a secret the church could not allow to survive. 7 years earlier, October 13th, 1307, a date burned into the bones of history. Before dawn, the king's men moved like predators. Across France, a silent command unfurled, and 600 Templars were seized in their sleep. They were not killed in battle. They were not defeated in crusade. They were betrayed in their own homes, dragged from prayer, shackled like thieves, accused like sorcerers. One by one, their fortresses were emptied. Temples turned to tombs. Brotherhood turned to ash. But in the chaos, something strange happened. Not all the Templars vanished. Some simply melted away, disappearing into the forests, the mountains, the borderlands where papal law could not reach. The church declared them extinct, but their symbols reappeared. Their rituals echoed in hidden halls, and whispers grew that the fire did not destroy them. It transmuted them. In Portugal, King Denis shielded the surviving knights. He granted them new names, new robes, but the same lands, the same leaders, the same vows. They called themselves the Order of Christ, but their bones were Templar. In Scotland, excommunicated and defiant, others found sanctuary. Hidden from Rome, they seeded their symbols among the stonemasons' guilds, marks carved into arches and cathedrals, meant to be mistaken as decoration. Centuries later, those guilds awakened, but they were no longer builders of stone. They were builders of secrets. They called themselves Freemasons. They were supposed to be gone, erased by fire, fear, and silence. But the Templars are like shadows. They do not die. They shift. In the wake of the arrests, some fled east to Hungary to Cyprus. Some vanished into Germany. Their trials inconclusive, their fates uncertain. But 2 places, 2 silent kingdoms, cradled the Templar ghost and let it breathe again. Portugal was small but cunning. Its king knew the church's wrath could burn kingdoms, but he also knew power when he saw it. Even shattered, the Templars still held wealth, ships, castles, and secrets. In 1319, Denis performed a miracle of politics. He took the remnants of the outlawed order, gave them new robes, a new name, and declared them loyal not to Rome, but to him. The Order of Christ was born. Publicly, they were new men. Privately, they were the same. Same castles, same commanders, same oaths whispered in stone halls by candlelight. It was not rebirth, it was disguise. At their fortress in Tamar, they guarded relics, maps, and star charts. They rebuilt their network in silence, far from the Vatican's claws. Some say they even kept their old name in secret, muttered in the blackness between prayers. Centuries later, the Order of Christ's ships would bear crimson crosses as they sailed into uncharted seas and carried the Templar shadow across the world. But the other sanctuary was stranger, colder, wilder: Scotland. In 1307, the same year the arrests began, Scotland was excommunicated by the Pope, which meant Rome's justice could not reach it. It was chaos, war-torn, bleeding, and that made it perfect. Templars slipping through the Channel found a realm ruled by rebellion. They brought gold, maps, ships, knowledge, and something more dangerous: memory. They vanished into the highlands and into the lodges of stonemasons. For generations, those masons had carved cathedrals, castles, bridges. But after the Templars came, their guilds changed. By the mid-1500s, the lodges were no longer mere trade halls. They had initiates, degrees, ceremonies, and torchlight. And increasingly, their members were not builders at all, but thinkers, alchemists, nobles. By 1599, the Lodge of Edinburgh kept formal minutes. By 1646, Elias Ashmole, and an antiquarian, recorded his own initiation into a Masonic lodge. And from there, the shadow grew teeth. But how do we know they carried the Templar flame? Not names, not flags. Those can be burned. Symbols survive. Twin pillars, Boaz and Jachin, from the Temple of Solomon, carved on cathedrals in Prague, painted on lodge tracing boards in Edinburgh centuries later, and on the signet rings of men who swore oaths in the dark. The compass, the square, the triangle, once tools of stonecutters, now emblems of something older, deeper. Shapes not just of buildings, but of the soul. The Templars were swords, the Freemasons were whispers. But between them, there was transformation. The knights who once knelt in blood-soaked chapels taught the Masons to kneel in darkness and rise as keepers of memory. Ritual replaced war. Silence replaced steel. And in that silence, the Templars did not die. They changed their skin. They could not announce it. They could not write it. They had to hide their legacy in plain sight, in symbols that would outlive kings and popes. Books burn, but stone remembers. The earliest Masonic tracing boards, those visual maps of lodge rituals, are a strange blend. Biblical allegory, geometric precision, and unmistakable Templar shadows. The compass and square are not just tools, they are spells of shape. The triangle is harmony, the pentagram, balance, the golden ratio, divine perfection. They did not bring back gold, they brought back a language of proportion, of silence, of eternity. South of Edinburgh, in the green hills of Midlothian, stands a chapel built in the 1400s. Rosslyn, a church, or a cipher. Here, every stone is alive. Stars spiral in the ceiling vaults. Green men grin from shadowed corners. Knights ride frozen mid-charge along the arches. And cross-shaped windows glow like blood in moonlight. Some carvings show corn, zea maize, a plant unknown in Europe until Columbus sailed, decades after Rosslyn was finished. How? Either time is lying, or someone crossed oceans long before we think they did. Beneath Rosslyn lies a sealed crypt. It has never been opened in modern times. Legends claim it holds relics, documents, perhaps even the lost Templar treasure. There is no proof, only whispers. Across Europe, Prague, Lisbon, London, Rome, the same motifs recur. Twin pillars, checkerboard floors, sacred ratios. To the untrained eye, they are decoration. To the initiated, they are coordinates, a map hidden in architecture, a constellation made of stone. And somewhere in that map, a center, a forbidden temple. In the early 1700s, the shadows stepped into the light and called themselves Freemasons. London, 1717. 4 small lodges met above taverns. That night they united and declared themselves the Grand Lodge of England. They claimed their craft was ancient, older than kings, older than cathedrals. A brotherhood of builders, not of stone, but of men. They rewired the old stonemason rituals. No longer operative builders, they became speculative builders. They would not build cathedrals, they would build souls. Each initiate passed through degrees, each stage a death and a rebirth, blindfolded, kneeling, sworn to secrecy under penalty of silence. Every lodge is built the same way. 2 pillars at the entrance, a chamber veiled in silence, a floor tiled in black and white, light and dark, life and death, always facing the east, where the light rises. They called it the Temple, but it was not in Jerusalem. It was not anywhere on earth. It was an idea. The temple is not built of stone. It is built of memory, and the builders build themselves. In the New World, the secret temple found freedom. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere. Many of America's founders were Freemasons. They did not just sign declarations, they built foundations, brick by symbolic brick. Even the shape of the Republic mirrored the lodge. 3 branches of government like the 3 pillars of the lodge, the Bill of Rights echoing the Masonic charges. A temple, disguised as a city, but light always casts shadows. In 1826, a man named William Morgan threatened to publish a book exposing their secrets. He vanished, presumed murdered. Riots followed. Lodges burned. The temple had shown its teeth, and the world recoiled. Secrecy is a double-edged blade. It shields what is sacred, but it also breeds fear. Even now, every candidate who joins the lodge enters blindfolded, alone, led by a single hand. He thinks he is joining a society, but what he is truly entering is himself, because the real temple was never a building. It was always the mind. And if the temple is the mind, what happens when the mind is corrupted? What if something followed the Templars into the lodges? Something they could not kill. Something that waits. Beneath Rome, far below the Vatican's gold altars and marble saints, lies a room no pilgrim will ever see. Here are kept relics too dangerous for daylight. And, according to whispers, one thing more dangerous than all of them combined. The Codex of Shadows. It has no catalog number, no scholar admits to seeing it. Officially, it does not exist, yet its shadow appears in forbidden footnotes and in the trembling confessions of dying archivists. They describe it as small, bound in blackened leather, its pages brittle as moth wings, its ink metallic, its script alien, and throughout its pages one phrase repeats like a heartbeat in the dark. The light is veiled, but not extinguished. It speaks in patterns, geometric ratios, astronomical alignments, spirals of numbers that match no calendar known to man. Some pages show maps, but the coastlines do not exist. Some show temples, but their pillars float inverted as if meant to be read in mirrors nor in dreams. And in its margins, sketched in blood-red ink, are symbols that do not belong to Christendom. Serpents swallowing stars, eyes split into 3, a chalice sprouting roots, an angel with no face. If this came from Jerusalem, It was not from the Temple Mount the world remembers. Perhaps this is what the Templars found. Perhaps this is why they had to be erased, not because they defied the Church, but because they learned something older than the Church. Those who claim to have touched the Codex do not live long. One monk was found dead in his cell, mouth packed with ash. Another was discovered blind, raving in Greek he never knew. A third simply vanished. Perhaps the curse is not death, perhaps it is memory. The Codex does not just hold knowledge, it changes those who read it, as if the book is reading them back. No one knows where it is now, or if it even exists, but its symbols have begun to surface, hidden in architecture, embedded in rituals, passed hand to hand, not to the ears, but to the soul. Perhaps the Codex was never meant to be read. Perhaps it was meant to be built. A map, not to a place, but to a transformation. And if the heart of the Templars still beat, then the shadow still lives. Across the world their marks endure. Washington, Paris, Lisbon, Alexandria, Buenos Aires, Manila, a net of memory spanning the globe. Follow the twin pillars, the pentagrams, the black and white floors, and you trace an invisible empire, a realm with no borders and no king. Only oaths. They do not conquer. They embed. They plant their myth like a seed and let nations grow around it. Every city is a scripture, every monument a prayer, every street a line of their secret alphabet. The Templars built fortresses, the Freemasons built nations, but what they truly built was a memory that cannot die. And now, we reach the last temple, the one that is not in any city, but inside you. For centuries they built in silence, stone by stone, symbol by symbol, life by life. And the world believed they built cities, cathedrals, empires. They did not. They built you. Every ritual is a blueprint, every degree a chisel strike, not on stone but on the soul. Blindfolded, you are cut from the outer world. Kneeling, you are laid like a cornerstone. Rising, you become the temple. This was their secret. The temple was never a building. It was always a becoming. The real treasure was never gold. It was memory. Memory that can outlive empires. Memory that can survive fire. Memory passed from hand to hand, not to the ears, but to the soul. The Freemasons still speak of the lost word, a divine name, once known, then lost, the eternal absence. But maybe it was never missing. Maybe it was waiting for someone willing to be changed to hear it. The word is not a name, it is a vow. The vow to become more than flesh, to build what cannot fall. Even Solomon's temple is gone. Rosslyn is crumbling, marble decays. And yet, the temple still rises, not on mountains, not in capitals, but in the mind. Every man who kneels in the dark and rises changed, adds one stone to an invisible temple that spans the centuries. Perhaps the Templars knew they would fall. Perhaps they planted the seed knowing the tree would burn, but the fruit would remain. Perhaps the Freemasons built not to last, but to teach, to whisper one truth through fire, through ruins, through time, that the temple is not something you find, it is something you become. So, did the Templars survive as the Freemasons? Yes, but not as men, not as a secret order, not as a conspiracy. They survived as a method, a story that became a structure, a myth that became a map, a silence that became a code. And now, the temple is yours to build. If you have walked this far with me, you are no longer just listening. You are standing at the threshold. Step through the door. Follow the whisper and become what they could not kill. Subscribe. Remember. Return.